let's get to the nuts and bolts of what is fact at this point, and that's the commitments of a number of players here in the last few weeks. And I'll just set it up this way. There have been 4 committed here just in the past, let's say 2 weeks. CJ Nixon, the number 1 rated player in the state, would be the headliner. And we can certainly go down the list or we can look forward. But what are your thoughts about Oklahoma's efforts on the recruiting path?
Yeah, Oklahoma's doing a really good job right now, Mark. As you mentioned, there's been quite a few as of late. CJ Nixon, who's the number 1 player in the state of Oklahoma out of Weatherford High School in Weatherford, Oklahoma. And when you look at Oklahoma at this point right now, Mark, Oklahoma has 21 commitments solidified for the 2025 class, which they're doing the work a little bit earlier than maybe in years past, but they still got a little bit of meat on the bone. But yeah, there's 2 or 3 guys that as you have here on the list in terms of their top guys, 2 or 3 they're from the state of Oklahoma, right? You've got Tristan Haynes from Carl Albert, you've got Elijah Thomas from Chakotah. So Oklahoma's really doing a good job on, and I think this was one of Venable's areas of focus when he came on to Oklahoma, because they had not that they were recruiting Oklahoma bad, but there was a lot of in-state talent, especially some of the top in-state talent that was going elsewhere. And so he's done a very good job in really shoring that up. And so when you look at this class as a whole, number 8 overall according to 247 rankings, but in this will kind of delve into our conversation I'm sure that we'll have a little bit later. It's 8th in the country, 5th in the SEC, right? So that's a much different look in terms of what that recruiting class is. But having said that, for Oklahoma to be up there, and I think that SEC patch that me and you have talked about this a long time over the last couple of years, but that SEC patch on your jersey means a lot, right? Oklahoma has done a very good job with Venables when he's been here, but even more so, I think you're going to see that recruiting go up a little bit. Now, I think the proof is certainly going to be in the pudding in terms of what Oklahoma's going to be able to do on the field this year, but even more specifically, Oklahoma's been able to step up their defensive recruiting over the last few years. So yeah, being in a position with 21 commitments here on July 11th, still having about, I think, 4 or 5 that are pretty close to committing, I think is a very good sign going into this year's season.
Cortez Mills, a top 25 player out of the state of Florida, top 200 player nationally, top 20 roughly wide receiver. Amarian Robinson, the safety, 42nd ranked in the country at his position. The number 3 player out of the state of Arkansas, Darius Afalaba, is an interior offensive lineman. Those are the most recent commits. So when you mention some targets and some guys that are on the board, is there anybody in particular that you're eyeing?
I think the crown jewel, so to speak, for this class is Michael Fasusi, 5-star offensive lineman out of Lewisville, Texas. He is the guy. I think it looks like it's probably between Oklahoma and Texas right now. 5-star, number 27 overall. He looks like he's probably maybe top 5 offensive tackle in the country, and so he's. I think it looks good for Oklahoma right now. I think Oklahoma leads by a fairly considerable margin, but Texas is obviously in the loop there with him being a Texas kid. So being able to secure his commitment will be really, really critical, specifically when the offensive line commitment that they lost to Missouri last week as well. So he's one guy. And then you got a couple of defensive linemen. One, interestingly enough, that Oklahoma's in on from West Fargo, North Dakota. Cade Pidzeric he's a 3-star defensive lineman. He's a guy that Oklahoma feels really good about where they're at there. Another defensive lineman from Miami. Looks like that's kind of a 3-team race between Miami, Oklahoma, and interestingly enough, USC. So his name is Floyd Bucard, 3-star defensive lineman out of Miami, 6'3", 315, top 50 defensive lineman in the country. And then another one that kind of keep your eyes on is Christian Jones, 4-star linebacker from Omaha, Nebraska. Oklahoma's in on him. So those are some of the ones that look like could be the next dominoes to fall in this class for Oklahoma should things align in that way.